over from library operations. So let me turn it over to him.
Thank you, Jean.
You are welcome.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Britton Woodman. I am a learning technology specialist with library operations. I don't own a Stratocaster. I don't own a stylophone, but I do own administrative privileges over the library Qualtrics brand.
Right.
And with that great power comes the great responsibility of training librarians on how to use Qualtrics. So I'm going to go over with you the stuff that I go over with them when I get them started. And I have them start by signing into umish.qualtrics.com, which I'm going to go to now in this browser, which I've been provided. Oh, look, it's already in there.
All right.
You sign into Qualtrics these days, and that wasn't supposed to happen. I have to take my word for it. You sign into Qualtrics these days the same way you would sign into email or Wolverine Access or any other web service that the university uses. It takes your Kerberos authentication. So if you're already signed in to your email, like I happen to be, then it'll probably just grab the authentication from there, and it'll drop you at a screen like this. If it was your first time signing into Qualtrics, then you've probably got some extra screens, just sort of asking to confirm your name and whether you're a student, things of that nature. If it asks you if you're a student and you're a student, then it'll want you to specify a graduation date so it knows when to turn off your access to Qualtrics. It is tied into M-Community, so it can see what department you're affiliated with, and even if you leave, it'll eventually realize that you don't have access. But let's not go any further into that right now. You've probably got a screen a lot like the one you're seeing on my screen that says click here to create your first survey, if this is your first time. So we're going to go ahead and click that. You're going to see a couple of different options. The one we're going to cover this morning is Quick Survey Builder. You also have the option to use stock questions either from your department or stock questions that Qualtrics uses to, it makes available to us to more quickly create a survey, but I want to show you how to use the Quick Survey Builder today. So we're going to click on that. We're going to give this survey a name. We're going to work with some sample questions that you can find on Qualtrics' website. I can show you later. I'll call this one Product Survey. Once you have more than one survey created, you can start creating folders to file them in if you want to. These are the folders that I have in my brand. Oops. Click Create Survey, and we get this screen right here. We will choose Create a New Item. That's how we create our first question. Click to write the question text. We'll make this pretty simple. What is your gender? Now watch what happens to those sample responses when I hit the Tab key. It scanned the text of the question and realized that when I was asking about gender, it was probably going to want male or female answers filled in. It's not quite to the point of Facebook where there are 59 different choices for gender yet, but you could add more if you really wanted to. See over there on the right, there's an option for automatic choices. This is where you can fill in things if it didn't guess correctly what automatic choices you wanted. I'm going to choose regretful to delightful, just to show you that you can reduce the number of choices if you want. Usually the automatic choices come up to 7. If I didn't want to give the respondent this many options to specify whether I had regrets, I could dial it down and it'll take the choices out of the middle. See, good is gone now, very good is gone. I think for this question, we'll stick with male, female, if I can find it again. Just gonna undo or try to. Go back down to 2. That's what'll do it. There we go. So that is a simple check one or the other kind of question. You can see the round buttons. We will create another question like that now. It will be a similarly simple question. Have you purchased one of our bakery products? See how it scanned and it saw us asking have you, and it figured that would be a yes or no kind of question, so it's filled that in there. Let's see. I'm going to add another question here. This one's going to be a multiple choice kind of question. So I'm going to go over to the right here and choose multiple answer. See how those the round ones changed to square ones? You probably know that's web shorthand. Round means you only get to choose one. Square means check all that apply. So we will say let's see which products have you tried. Let's go with a few of the old bakery favorites. Cookies, cake, rolls, brownies. So let me choose another one. Here we go. Oh, return. If I choose return after an option, then it automatically puts in another option for me to fill in. And the old favorite, other. Now what I'm going to do with this other, so they have something to fill in there if they tried, you know, I don't know, maybe this bakery has great pretzels. I'm going to click that blue triangle there and add allow text entry, and that'll put a little text field just below it that'll show up in the survey results. That's what that text box is. Now, suppose this bakery that we're preparing the survey for has gotten some casual negative feedback on just the cake lately. Let's add a kind of an open-ended essay type question. Do you have any suggestions to improve cake? This could see it saw do you have and assumed it would be a yes or no, but I'm going to go up to the green area here, change item type. I'm going to choose a text entry question. One of the neat things about this item type is it gives you little examples of what the different kinds of questions look like. There are all kinds of options you can choose. Side by side and matrix tables are probably a little over what we're going to cover today. Let me show you how a text entry question works. The default is a single line. Now, Qualtrics will let you type as much text as you want into any kind of text entry question. So these different options up here are just for like the show. They're kind of the visual cue that shows a respondent how much they can type. But just because it's one line, you could type all of War and Peace in there if you really wanted to. We'll make it an essay text box. This is all purely visual. Single line, multi-line text box. Form will let you put multiple fields in a single question. If, say, you wanted somebody to put their name, address, phone number in a survey, you could use forms for that. Password is just a single line, but everything shows up as dots in case you had like a block that you wanted to make password protected. Excuse me. So we'll make this an essay text box. So I've created a question about how to improve the cake, but maybe I don't want people who just bought cookies to you know, get prompted for suggestions on how to improve the cake. That's where display logic comes in. I'm going to go over to, there's actually a couple different ways. Qualtrics gives you two different ways to do just about everything. In our case, we can either go over to the far right here and click Add Display Logic, or we can go over to the little gear on the left here and add display logic from there the same way. So the cake question is only going to show up if the question, in our case the which products have you tried question, if the cake option is selected. So that's how I built that with these little pop-up menus. See how that blue shows up just above the question, just to give you an indication that respondents will only see this question if those qualifications have been fulfilled. How's everybody doing? Does anybody have any questions I can clear up from this first part? Excellent. That's good to hear. Let's see. I'm going to furthermore add Another thing we have is called skip logic. It's sort of the reverse of display logic. Display logic shows a question if a thing has been, if a qualification has been fulfilled. Skip logic will not display questions if a condition is fulfilled. So we're going to take question number 2 here. Have you purchased one of our bakery products? If they haven't purchased a bakery product, we probably don't need their feedback at all. So I'm going to add skip logic, and I'll go down to the right here and add it from this side this time, same way. If no is selected, then we will skip to the end of the survey. So that goes out. So now that we're looking it over, doesn't that introduction seem a little bit terse? What is your gender? This is where most surveys start with, thank you for clicking on the link. The survey will only take a minute. Here's where you can email if you have questions. This kind of thing is called a descriptive text. So I'm going to add that in right down. Where'd it go? There it is. No, where is it? You know what? I'll just add it up here. See, if you can see where I've got my cursor now, they give you these plus signs below or above and below each question. You can immediately put in another question either above or below. In this case, I clicked the above, so it's inserted this at the very beginning before the what is your gender question. Now I'm going to go over to the green menu here and choose descriptive text. See how the default response has disappeared because this is just a descriptive text question. In our case, we will say, thank you for participating in our survey. We appreciate your feedback. Survey will take about 5 minutes, unless you spend 10 minutes telling us how to make our cake fluffier, and will be completely anonymous. Excellent. And then I'm going to put a page break right below this so that this only appears on, so that this is the only thing that appears on the first page. I'm going to add that here on the right where it says add page break. You will see a little thing appear just below it. See where it says page break now? That means that this is the only question that will appear on the screen. You can change options that we'll talk about in a bit so you can make it so each question only appears by itself. But by default, it'll put as many questions as you want on a page, and then you can scroll down unless you enter page breaks manually. Let's see. So now I'm going to show you some styling of text. Say we wanted to emphasize the phrase 5 minutes. I'm clicking on Rich Content Editor up here, and this gives you the kind of style guide you're used to seeing in a word processor or a modern web browser. So just going to select this the same way you would, hit the B button to bold it. Excellent. And then we'll click outside. See, we'll click. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. Some of those style changes don't appear in this view, but they will appear when you go to preview the survey and when you make the survey live. Let's see. All right. So now we can click the magnifying glass up there to choose to preview the survey and see how it'll look to the respondent. Let's see. We will always allow pop-ups from Qualtrics. And there we go. So this is how your survey will look using the default skin, which is the U of M skin that pretty much anybody on campus can use for a survey. Your department may have additional options for skins. It's also possible to add CSS in to make it more consistent with a web page you already have. So there's the descriptive text. That 5 minutes is bolded just like we chose. There's the next button. Here's how these will look. We'll choose male. Where? You know, I wonder if I made the have you purchased the descriptive text question by accident. Live TV. Let's see. Let's fix this real quick. Multiple choice. This is why you preview a survey before you make it live. And hit yes, you can hit return, hit no here, and then choose 2 choices. Put that skip logic back in real quick too. Let's see. Here we go. If no is selected, then skip to end of survey. That's what we're trying to do. Let's try and preview that survey again. How am I doing for time? Doing okay, right? Cool. Excellent. Looks about right, yeah. So, let's say mail. Let's say, no, I haven't purchased a bakery product. We should see thank you for your time. There it is. I'm going to click here to start over. I'm going to take the survey again. Female this time. I have purchased a bakery product. I will say cookies and rolls. We'll say thank you for your time. Do it one more time, but I'm going to pick cake this time. Female, yes. Cookies and cake. There's the essay question about how to improve our cake. Get fluffier. Use baking soda instead of baking powder. If they're using baking powder instead of baking soda, that's kind of a strange bakery. Let's see. So, let me show you some of the look and feel options. Here's that default template I was telling you about. You know, I don't know, did I show you what I just clicked or did I just talk about it? I'm going to go up to the little rainbow up here. That's called look and feel. And this is where you can change the theme of the survey. UMich4 is the one that pretty much everybody at U of M has access to. If you click where it says University of Michigan and choose Qualtrics, then you get a whole bunch of sample templates that Qualtrics makes available to all their customers. A lot of them have that big Q up at the top, but some of them are nice and plain. Some of them are optimized so that they work really well on a cell phone browser, a smartphone browser. Some of them just have pretty pictures of trees behind them. This is one of my personal favorites to show. Let's see. You can add a progress bar that'll say 0% done to 100% done. This is where you can, if you choose question per page, you don't have to put in page breaks after every question. You can say, I just want 1 question per page if you want to. Or you could say 2 questions or 5 questions. Let's see. Fonts is where you would change the, it's got a selection of web-safe fonts that pretty much every browser can access here. This is where you click to change the colors of each thing if you didn't like the colors that were built into the theme. Was there a question?
Tiffany says, how would you create your own departmental skin if you wanted with your department logo?
You can add the logo. If you want to, the simplest way probably to do it is just to go into the header and add the logo in here. To create like a skin that people can choose, that people in your department can choose, you would have to work with your brand administrator. They can send that over to Qualtrics, and Qualtrics can make it an option for people in your department to use. We're just starting to do that in the library, actually. Type stuff in. Down here, if you've got a style sheet you want to use, you can enter its address straight in there, or you can put CSS in here that'll override the stuff in the skin you're already using. Let's see. So we'll click save. We'll keep the tree in our bakery survey. It seems kind of appropriate. I want to show you a couple things that they tuck away that you're probably wondering about in this survey options checkbox on the left here, and in the advanced settings on the right, or advanced options on the right. It's kind of nondescript, but there's a lot of useful stuff in there. So we'll go over survey options real quick first. So the back button actually implements a little back arrow within the survey. So if somebody sees a question or answers a question and then changes their mind, they can go back and change it. That won't work so well if you use the back button in the browser, just because of the way the browser works with a modern website like Qualtrics. It could screw up the results. So if you want to give them the option to change their questions or change their responses based on seeing a later question possibly, you can do that here. Some people don't want that. They just want like the original unvarnished response, so they make it an option you have to turn on. Save and continue will allow the respondent to pick up where they left off later. It does that by setting a cookie on the computer in the user account. So if somebody starts a survey and wants to pick it back up later, they'll probably need to be at the same computer they're already at, unless you set them up as part of a panel and they have their own individual link. Show question numbers is turned off by default, but it'll put those little question numbers that you saw on the left there, Q1, Q2, Q3, into the survey. They turn that off by default just because most people who conduct surveys just want the questions to appear and that progress bar at the bottom to give people a vague idea of where they are in the survey, but not necessarily to number each question. Those numbers will show up in your reports. Custom survey validation messages is something we'll probably go over in a later seminar, but you can specify how you set up whether they answer a survey, whether you force a response or not. The survey language, survey title, and meta description are really more for the benefit of web browsers and search engines. You can specify a language that will appear in the meta tags for the document, so the browser knows how to display the text if you use a different language. The survey title will only appear like in the tab or in the menu bar if you're using a browser like Firefox or Internet Explorer that still has a bar at the top of the window. The meta description stuff just appears in the meta tags of the HTML document for the benefit of the search engine, like Google, to index, which you can turn off down here at that checkbox that says prevent indexing if you don't want your survey indexed by Google. Some people, wouldn't necessarily want their survey to be found in a search for a topic. Let's see. Open access is on by default, so if anybody has the link, they can click it or enter it into a browser to take the survey. You can change that to invitation only, so you'd need to enter all their names and addresses into Qualtrics and send them links to take the survey. There's levels of protection in between. Password protection will make people enter in a password as soon as they click the survey link to take it, which you would then set here. Ballot box stuffing will put a cookie it'll put a cookie in the browser on the computer where the respondent takes it, so they can't take it more than once per machine they log into anyway. Obviously there's ways around that, but it's at least a level of protection that would stymie a lot of people. HTTP refer verification just means if they have to come from a certain web page that you would specify here for the survey to appear. If they just typed in the address directly, then it would say, sorry, the survey is not available. This comes in handy, say, if you want to put the link to the survey behind, your staff intranet or something. Just put the link in there, and then they have to log into the intranet and click the link from there rather than just entering it in from their email or such. Let's see, prevent indexing, I just talked about. This will put a little entry in the robots.txt file that web browser or search engines scan for and say, okay, we will not index this. It will not appear in search results. Survey expiration lets you specify a start time and an end time for the survey to be available. If a respondent tries to go to this link either before the start date or after the end date, they'll just get a message that says, sorry, the survey is not available.
Can I say something about
Sure.
that? I copied somebody else's survey that had an end date, and then I couldn't figure out why
Oh,
my
no.
survey wouldn't go, but I had to go in there and change it because it copied
Right.
the date along with the whole survey.
Repeat the question.
Oh, sure. Jean was just saying she's had experiences where she copied a survey from her department's library And when you copy that survey, it brings over the stuff in the survey options as well as just the questions. So if you reuse or repurpose a survey from elsewhere in your department, it's a good idea to go into survey options and check things like if there is an expiration date. Because if the old one is already expired, then the copy will be expired too until you change the dates to current dates. Let's see. So the default end of survey message you saw when I took the preview, it said, "Thank you for taking our survey. We appreciate your feedback." You can change that if you want. You can have it say, "Thank you for your time. Somebody will follow up with you if you provided contact information," or what have you. You can also change it so it'll show a page that shows what the respondent said when they answered the questions. You can have it just go to the U of M homepage, your department's homepage. You can have it follow up via email with a thank you message you wrote. Anonymized responses means it'll strip out any personal information that Qualtrics usually records. By default, Qualtrics usually just records like the IP address that the survey was taken from to give you an approximate location for the respondent, but it'll even strip that out if you choose anonymized response. I hinted earlier that surveys could be deactivated and it'll just say the survey is not available now. You can change that language if you want to say, come back at a certain time or contact us if you have additional questions about this survey. You would write that here and specify it here. Partial completion, we talked a little bit earlier about being able to pick up where you left off. After a certain point, you can have Qualtrics just assume that, okay, they're not going to come back, just log their responses the way they were. The default is 1 week, but you can make it as little as 4 hours or as late as 6 months. Response sets are something a little more complex than I would want to go into today, but you can specify like periods of time when people took a survey and compare them through this set. So now we're going to go over to the right here, and I'm going to show you some of the stuff in advanced options. Conjoint blocks are, again, probably a little over what I was planning to go through today. Survey preview mode is checked by default. If I uncheck it, you will see that the choices and things change a little bit. As it is now, it's kind of a what you see is what you get view, and it's turned on by default, but this is how Qualtrics would have you change things. Personally, I kind of like having the checkboxes there, so I know that this is a, choose one question, this one's a check all that apply kind of question. Strip formatting will just take the formatting from a question and strip it all out so it's just plain text again. Auto number questions will let me, I'll show you. Let me go back to the left here a little bit. Remember how I added this question a little later on in preparing the survey? See how it's question number 5 rather than question number 1? If I go up to auto number questions, it'll renumber them in sequential order, and I can change that little number thing. So as with the library, I might want to make it ulib. They come back and now they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's how they'll appear on the results report too. Again, that's not shown to the respondents by default. It's something you can add if you want to. Block randomization, if you organize the questions into specific blocks of questions, then you can make it so that respondents see those blocks in different orders. Mobile Compatibility Advisor will give you some suggestions on how to make it more accessible on smartphones and touchscreen devices. And it'll do that by throwing up a little warning here next to the gear. You'll see like an asterisk